Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger. Because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Rise up! Team Rise! Rise up! Team Rise!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site. Episode 653, recording with my co-host, Seth Cox from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site, as we do yet another draft preview show, this time just about the wide receivers, a position that has taken a back seat this offseason as they've been focusing on front seven players, but it's still actually is a position of relative need, wouldn't you say, Seth?
Yeah, and it's just, they need another type of wide receiver. I know there's a contingent of fans that really love Greg Dortch, and we love the story of Greg Dortch, and we love Greg Dortch as, a potential wide receiver 4 type, but in his first full season, getting an opportunity to be the wide receiver 3, it was after the first game where he, had a really nice game. It became obvious that it's just not something he can do full time. Guys his size, and I have a freshman heading into his sophomore year of high school that's about an inch and a half taller and only about 15 pounds lighter than Greg. And those guys, and you talked about this on Twitter one day, or X, whatever you guys call it nowadays. I don't know, whatever you youths call it. With regards to Greg is, he's a great effort guy, but when you're small and you don't have elite traits or something elite in your bag in terms of athleticism, it's really hard to be a guy to count on. And again, played in all 17 games and had career high in touchdowns. Didn't have career high career high in touchdowns. Didn't have career high in receptions, in yards, or in yards per reception. So it just became a situation where it's not a knock on Dortch. It just didn't work out.
And his role diminished over the course of the year because he was clear slot guy. When they traded away Rondell Moore, that was the plan. He was going to take over in the slot. And as the season progressed, and after Zay Jones got back, they started using Marvin Moore in the slot. And then towards the end of the year, it was a lot of Michael Wilson in the slot, which was something new as they were getting Zay Jones some playing time there. Now,
well, and
Marvin Harrison is, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, to that point, Jess, the first 6 games, he was averaging right around 60% of the snaps. After game 6, so game 7 when Zay came back?
I think it was, because he was out for 5. I think he was inactive for 1, and then he played the rest of the year.
And so he didn't have a game until the very last one over 40% of snaps. So, to your point, they basically, funneled him out of the offensive sets, and so we'll see how it works out. But yeah, like you said, you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., you have Michael Wilson. The bugaboo on Wilson's always just been, can he stay consistently healthy?
And in 2 seasons, he hasn't cracked 600. Like, he is a guy that the coaches love. He is, mentality-wise, he's a great complementary receiver. But one, the health; 2, the consistency. He does things that you like because he can do. He's a high-effort guy in the run game. But you could definitely upgrade from him. And you've got Zay Jones, who's coming back from an 8-catch season, and then the rest of the guys on the roster are unproven. I'm sure they got a guy, Quez Watkins, who's got speed. You've got Tajon Palmer that they drafted last year. You've got Xavier Weaver, who got some playing time last year, a little bit of promise there. But that room is definitely not one where you're like, oh, it's not like the running back position. It's not like it's not like tight end. It's not like safety. Those 3 positions, or a quarterback even, where you look at the roster and go, they're not going to draft one of those before day 3, probably. Like, you could always draft a running back. You could always draft a receiver. I mean, you could always draft a safety. You could always draft a tight end. But at least at those 3 positions, you feel like unless someone spectacular falls, where you're like, they're not picking one of those guys before day 3. Receiver, you can't see that. Now, Mel Kiper, his mock draft that came out on Tuesday, had the Cardinals taking Matthew Golden in the first round. It doesn't feel like they're going to go that direction, but I will say this: it wouldn't shock me. They are doing visit after visit with edge guys and interior linemen and defensive linemen. I personally think offensive line is going to be kind of the focus, but I wrote about this the other day. If they're looking for, you want your first round picks to play, right? There are 3 positions where the Cardinals could get significant contributions from a first round pick. Those 3 positions are on the offensive line, where you could play guard or tackle. It would be a wide receiver, and it would be inside linebacker. Like, they could draft an edge, they could draft a defensive lineman, but they're 7 deep. They have a solid seven-man rotation right now on the defensive line. They've got a solid 4 edge guys, assuming BJ Ojulari. So, like, any guy, if you draft an edge, you draft a defensive lineman in the first round, they're going to play a small role this year. A receiver could play a lot.
Yeah, and I thought it was an interesting draft. I do think the idea of going, talking about the Kiper draft real quick, going wide receiver guard in the first 2 rounds, while, like you said, both could be impact immediate starter types, it would be slightly counterintuitive to what they've done this offseason, where they've really tried to beef up the defense, especially.
Yeah.
And I, quite frankly, did not read the entire draft, I'll be honest with you. So I'm not sure who was available still, but the other thing I would throw into that mix would be corner, right? Like, if you draft a corner early, they would probably play or have a chance to play over Sean Murphy-Bunting or Max Melton. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, you have to look at it, like you said, those are the positions and those are the players that we'll have to see, where they fit and everything. But this wide receiver class is interesting because it's like a lot of the rest of this draft, it's middle heavy, man. I mean, it is, you've got the A, and then you've got a lot of questions, and the guy at the top, I mean, are you drafting him to be a wide receiver or a corner? That's the first question of the draft, right?
Yes, and that's what we're going to lead with in this edition of the show, like we've done on the other positions we've looking like. We're going to talk about day one guys, and basically there's one guy that the Cardinals aren't going to have a chance at, and that's Travis Hunter. We're going to talk about day one guys. We'll talk about day two guys to know, then we'll talk about day three guys to know. So we will start with Travis Hunter, who's expected now to be the number 2 pick in the draft, but was a great cornerback and a very good receiver at Colorado. And what people are saying is that whatever position he's got Pro Bowl, all pro ceiling, like potential at both positions. It's just a matter of what's going to be the focus. And while like Field Yates says Travis Hunter, just the receiver, is wide receiver 1 in this class.
Yeah, and he's a unique talent, man. I mean, you look at what he did last year, and again, this is just on offense. This isn't even including the insane production on defense. But 96 catches, 1,258 yards, and 15 touchdowns, and then was the best corner in the country. Like he's an absurd player. Like once in a lifetime, once in a generation type of guy. You just hope he stays healthy and maybe can break the curse of being a Cleveland Brown, right? Like those are the things that you look at with him. And here's the biggest thing on Hunter. Think about this, Jess. This is literally the best high school football player in the country coming out of high school. He goes to a HBCU to go play with Dion and Shadur and those guys, and then follows them to Colorado. And everywhere he goes, he meets and probably exceeds expectations. Like that's like Bryce Harper, like those generational guys that get discovered in high school or when they're young.
That was Kyler as well.
Right. And so you just like look at it like this guy is, I mean, he's special. There's really nothing else to say about it though, because he's not even, I mean, I'm sure he's number 1 on their board, but he's not even an option.
Well, and the interesting is I guess because we're going to talk about Travis Hunter again when we go over
corners.
I guess, yeah. Which did we talk corners already? No, that's that's
next. I think it's Thursday actually.
Yeah, I think so. But we'll talk about Travis Hunter again. It seems like that he's going to play both sides of the ball, but is viewed as more of play. And this is honestly, I would do this. Be defensive back full time. We'll find ways to put you in on offense because you can, while receiver is technically in terms of salary, the more premium position these days, it's much more difficult to be a great cover guy. So if you can get greatness out of him, that changes your defense and you still can have an impact offensively as opposed to, and I think it's an easier thing to do. Full-time defensive player, package offensive player, as opposed to being a package defensive player when you're playing on offense. I think that's an easier way to do it. That said, I'm going to spend a lot of time on Travis Hunter. There's a group of receivers that the opinion of them varies kind of widely. If we're talking about, and you tell me this, there's basically 4 receivers that I think are probably all expect to go in the first round after Hunter. If you just look at solid receivers, Matthew Golden, T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan, Emeka Buka, Luther Burden. Is there anyone else of those that's going to be, you're probably expecting them to go in the first round as well? Is it probably those 4 plus Hunter?
No, it's just those 4, and we'll get down to the last 2 guys, but you start with Matthew Golden. He was number 2 off the board in terms of wide receivers in Piper's latest mock. He's a really interesting guy, and obviously mocked to the Cardinals, and so that's one of the things that we discussed. And the Golden thing, if they were to bring in a receiver, it would be that type, right? 6 foot, 195, ran a 4.29 40, wins at all levels of the field. You kind of look at his overall routes and where he won. 155,
which was everywhere. He won
right.
and just didn't get a lot of the downfield because they had Isaiah Bond, who was the guy that ran those routes. Which was remember coming into the combine, it was Bond who was saying, "I'm going to be the fast guy," and he wasn't slow by any means, but it was Golden who was the speedster.
Well, and it's funny because he had 400. Golden had 438 yards on deep receptions, and he averaged 13.5 yards per catch. So like that's the big thing is like, he doesn't, like you said, he wasn't running a ton of the routes, but when he did, they were completed at a high rate. That's the big thing with Golden. He's versatile. He can be used in a number of different ways from a number of different stations, and he wins. The biggest question I have, and why, and I'm not negative or positive on Golden. I just don't know.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
Where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I don't know if he fits what they want as a wide receiver because his biggest weakness is his blocking. And I know people are going to be like, well, who cares? But we saw like the Cardinals ask the receivers to block a lot. So is, while they want that and that's the expectation, are they willing to sacrifice that for a guy, especially in the first round? That's where my question comes in on that pick. The next guy you mentioned, Tara McMillan, massive, right? 6'5", 212 pounds. He ran fast enough. I don't think anybody expected him to be in the sub 4.5s, and I think he ran a 4.54 is what he ended up at the U of A Pro Day. 6'4" and 1/8, and he came in at 219, so a little heavier. He surprisingly has short arms for his height, which is interesting, but good wingspan, so makes up for it. There's just very few guys built like him, right? I mean, we've seen the Kenny Gallaudays, we've seen those type of guys, and Galladay is a nice type of mid-range prospect. A guy that I think he made a Pro Bowl, 6'4", 218, ran a 4.5, had good, not great jumps, but you could win because he's a big guy that can go up and get the ball. Obviously the high end comp would be like an AJ Green type player, but again, are we really gonna a borderline Hall of Fame level player? Is that where we want to put the comp at?
Or Drake London. Drake London's a bit thicker, but he's the same style of player. But he's interesting because you see him mocked in the top 10 all the way into the mid 20s.
Right. And the one that healthy, obviously being the key word, but what about Mike Williams, right? The big receiver that was with the Chargers forever. That got him. Remember, he got that massive contract, and everybody was like, "What are we doing?" And then he just never lived up to it. But health, and so like obviously we don't expect that for T-Mac, or hope that doesn't. But I mean, a guy that had 2 1,000-yard seasons, had over 10 touchdowns in a season, over 9 touchdowns in a season, like really really talented type guy, and he's probably slightly faster, but I wouldn't say crazy faster, but he's been a guy that just goes up and gets the ball consistently, high points. But he's got great body control, and he's going to win at the catch point a lot. So I like the player. I wish we saw more routes from him in terms of what he did at U of A, but he runs the routes he runs very effectively and very well. So I'm not overly concerned about it. But you do wish you would have seen some more from him in terms of different things. He's not a guy that's going to be running a lot of outs and things like that, right? You're mostly going to run him on goes and hitches, maybe some crossers here and there, but and then some deep ends because of the body, right? You're going to be able to, he's going to be able to size those guys up. And then it gets to the question marks, and it's not question marks in terms of ability, at least to you and I, but do they go in the first round? So again, we're just kind of using Kuiper's mock as a guide. But those are the 3 wide receivers that go in round 1. But the next 2 guys are really intriguing. Emeka Egbuka, one of the most, decorated collegiate receivers in history. And so Kuiper had him going, I think 32.
36. He goes 36 to Jacksonville.
Yeah. And so he's a guy that does a lot of the dirty work, right? He isn't a deep ball guy. And it's not shocking. The comp I've seen, again, way, way, way high end. So let's reel it in. But a high end comp of Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're like, oh, I can see that, like a little bigger, just under 6'1", over 200 pounds, ran a 4.5, so he's not a burner by any means, but he like you see it in him, right? Like you see the way he plays and how physical he is. I've seen Puka Nacua again, like those are insanely high end comps. But
mind you, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, what round was he? Was he was late D2?
Yeah, no, I think did he go that early? I'm checking right now.
Because Nacua, like you talk about Nacua, he was a 5th round pick and he's a stud, but like there's one thing I don't think you can go wrong with picking Ohio State receiver.
Right. They're going to give you 800 plus yards a season. Like they're just going to do it.
Is he? And he does things. And there's one thing as well. He does things the right way. He does the little things. He's the anti-diva type receiver. He is just much like Marv. Marv is a grinder. He's a worker, and Egbuka is also that guy. And so you're getting, like we like to say, high floor guy. Like he's going to be productive. It's just a matter of whether he is a star or not.
Right.
Luther Burden is super interesting because perhaps the coolest. What is that? Daniel Jeremiah. He's like, don't overthink Luther Burden. He's like Deebo Samuel, but more athletic. But the production, the drop off from 2023 to 2024 is staggering.
Yeah, yes. That's the only way to say it. I mean, 6 foot 206, ran a 4.41 40. And like you said, like the comps are easy, right? It's high end, obviously, is going to be Deebo. And that's one of those ones where people go, oh, we can't put Debo, right? I mean, Debo's unique. But this guy was used similarly at Mizzou. Like you said, terrible season this year. But last year was so dominant. And even his freshman year was so good.
Yeah. 1,200 yards in 2023, 86 catches, 14 yards of reception, 9 touchdowns. But then last year, playing with, what was it, Brady Cook?
Yeah.
Same quarterback, solid quarterback, and it drops to 61 for 676, only 11 yards a catch, 6 touchdowns. Although when Missouri would come back in those games, you would see like he'd be the guy to come alive in the fourth quarter when they're trying to come back. So was it a concentration thing? Was he bored? But is he going to be bored at the next level? Was it coaching? But those are definitely questions you have to answer about him, because how many physically talented, toolsy receivers have we seen who just don't produce at the pros? We've seen a million of them.
Right. And that's what the question becomes. He's a yak guy. He's a guy that you get the ball in his hands and let him make plays. You look at his route tree in 2024, it's disgusting the way they used him. And the amount of hitches and outs that he ran, and then I want him moving forward or getting the ball in a spot where he can get upfield quickly. And so I don't mind hitches too much, but outs I just feel like are just counterintuitive to what he does so well. The screen game wasn't strong this year for him, which is such a big part of his game because he is that kind of burly. Again, I'm gonna throw a name out there. Don't get hung up on it, but Anquan Bolden-esque type guy, right? Get the ball in his hands. He makes people miss, and runs through a lot of people. He's going to be the interesting one. Agbuka and Burden are going to be the interesting ones because they're the guys that fit in today's NFL so easily. But why are teams and why are not teams, I guess, but like why are draft nicks and why are the draft people so low on these guys? Because they just seem like easy evals, especially in a first round when that lacks that star talent at premium positions.
And that's the one thing about the receiving class this year. Last year, which was very top heavy in terms of production, it has depth and breadth to it, not necessarily the star power in this class, but you can get guys who can do some things pretty much lots of different rounds, which brings us to our day 2 guys. Coming to the next one, Rise FC Red podcast. Best our Cardinals talking about. Let's move on, talk about day 2 guys, because there are quite a bit of them. That's coming to next one, Rise FC Red.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now, when I say day two, are there, because if I look at some of the names that I've heard for, is that there aren't as many that are like number 47. The name that I keep running across here is Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel out of Iowa State because of that blazing speed, 4.39, 5.10, super productive. Is it seem to be that the receivers that are on day two are probably more late day two and like late round two, early round three guys before we hit the day three guys? Because it feels like there seems to be a gap after that. That if Burden and Buka end up falling to the second round, that wouldn't be a surprise. But what receivers do you think are number 47 worthy for the Cardinals?
I don't know if there is one. You mentioned Jalen Noel. He's an interesting guy. Out of Iowa State, put up good numbers, and then came in and had a great combine, right? Came in at 5'10", 194 pounds. Ran
tiny
that,
arms.
Yeah.
Tiny arms,
very
but
short arms and small hands.
He's got a 41 and he also has a 41.5-inch vertical. So that probably makes up for a bit of that. But great 40 time, strong too. So at 5'10", 194, he put up 23 reps of 225 on the bench press. He's got a great three cone. So physically, the athletic traits are there. The production is there. Does he fit what the Cardinals want to do? Because if we notice, what are the Cardinals? They've been like, other than the guys they've already had in the building, they've been bringing in guys who are 6 feet and taller.
Yeah, and so that'll be interesting to watch. You look at him, you see a guy that has the speed and the talent, but you do wonder about how consistent can he be, right? You look at his routes last year. He was number one in the country in deep yards, 609. So he's a deep ball threat immediately. But after those deeps, right? So post and goes, and some corner routes, like where is he used the most? And he doesn't seem as elusive as you would want for a guy his size. The yak was just 4.2 yards per, which is less than ideal for a speedster. So is he just kind of a deep ball merchant? And I think early in his career he might be, and I don't know if you take that at 47. We've seen a guy like ironically another Jalen Naylor, that's had a similar type of career. Naylor's not as fast as Noel was, but when you look at what he's done with Minnesota, he's averaged over 15 yards per reception in his career. So that'll be what's to watch with Noel. The other guy though is another Iowa State guy, Jaden Higgins. Higgins is kind of what you mentioned, right? 6'4", 214 pounds. So bigger, not quite as fast. Obviously, Noel ran the 4.39, but Higgins ran a 4.47 at that size, jumped out of the building. And then he's got the long arms, right? 33 and an eighth inch arms, 80-inch wingspan. He's a really, really interesting player. And he's a guy that can go up and get the ball, similar to T-Mac, just probably not quite as high end as T-Mac. Same type of routes though, right? You're going to want him on in and out breaking routes, posting up on hitches. I mean, it's insane just to think, but this dude, Jaden Higgins, had 87 catches, right? 27 came on hitches, which is again, that's absurd to think like, but you're talking about a 6'4" guy that they're like, don't beat me deep, don't beat me deep. And what do? They hitch it up and throw the ball to him because he's so big. So yeah, that's going to be a big thing. He's kind of those are kind of the next guys, along with a guy that if I remember right, and you can correct me, I think he set the single game record for most yards in a game out of Stanford. Elik Ayamanor, he if I remember right, he put up like 300 yards in a game once. Just I'm double checking right now, but this guy is, he's a good size guy. Obviously coming out of Stanford, came in just under 6'2", 206, ran a 4.44 though. So you look at him, he's had a good 2-year career there. 294 yards. Yeah, I remember that against Colorado. And so like just a high producer. He comps out to those guys that Green Bay drafted a couple years ago, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, those type of players who've had good careers, right? And where did they go in the third? I think they both went in the third, if I remember right, but I'm double checking right now. Oh, Dobbs went in the fourth. Wicks, let's see, where did Wicks go? Dontavian Wicks went in the fifth. So yeah, I mean, so that's the problem you're looking at. Like in this class, he's being looked at as a potential like late second, early third round guy. Just in other draft. So basically what's happening is those guys that were, fourth rounders are getting moved up into the third round, and so on and so on. A guy that I really like, Jess, I wish he would have ran the 40, but he did everything else. Jack Beck out of TCU had had a decent career at TCU. Had the good Senior Bowl week, and he was the one that lost his sibling, right, during the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. It's his brother it was his brother that died in the New Orleans thing that happened.
Right. And so you look at this year, Beck. So what's interesting about Beck, Jess, is he went to LSU, for those that don't know. So he started at LSU, led the 2021 LSU Tigers in receiving yards, I believe. Sorry, he led them in receptions. Was number 3 on the team in receiving yards as a freshman. And then just got passed up in 2022, transferred to Texas Christian, didn't really do anything, and then exploded this year. So like his start and finish, you're like, is this a late day or early day 2, late day 1 type of guy? But those 2 years in between, you're like, all right, this guy's terrible. Never mind, right? So that's the hard thing about Beck. He's going to be. You're going to get a lot of interesting comps.
I've heard really good things about Betch, and who moves well enough. He's really quick. That like he's a guy that if a team picks up in the late second, early third, they're just going to be really, really happy for him, because what does he do? He gets open and he catches passes. He's got really good hands. He's athletic enough, and he's probably not going to be a star. But wouldn't you think this is kind of Christian Kirkish in terms of ability? And they're not built the same, but in terms of the type of player he can be.
Well, and I've seen him comp to Michael Wilson. So, like you said, I mean, Michael Wilson kind of checks all those boxes too, right? Like reliable, not a diva, hard worker, so he's an interesting guy. I like Betch. I don't know, I don't think, again, isn't he just kind of the same though, right? To
right. I think they got the same thing that the Cardinals have. Yeah. Other names that I know kind of have come up. Do you think that they're still day 2 guys? These are smaller guys. Tez Johnson, Oregon. You go with no, Miami. Xavier Restrepo.
Oh, I don't know where
they were. I know they were kind of round 3 guys, but not like Restrepo's 40 was terrible.
Right.
And Tez Johnson, for as small as he is, he didn't have elite speed. And both guys are kind of smaller slot guys, although Restrepo much more physical. He's like, as I've heard him described, is like what Dortch is, only stronger and able to make guys miss. Dortch is great with the ball in his hands in space, but Restrepo is a stronger runner. But that 40 time, was it 4.83 that he ran at his pro day? Yeesh. Yeah. Yeesh.
Well, and you look at it, man. I mean, there's a couple things. The first thing on Tez Johnson, we've previously talked about JJ Nelson, right? And I've actually
4 pounds. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to meet and get to know JJ personally. And JJ was very light at 156 pounds, but he ran a 4.2840. He's literally one of the fastest men ever to run at the combine. So like he had that X factor.
And was a fantastic runner, was an elite returner in college.
Like you said about Tez, I mean, Tez is 154 pounds and ran a 4.51, which is really fast, but it's not really fast for 154 pounds. I will say he did have elite broad and 3 cone, so explosive and great change of direction skills, which are good. I could see Tez going the route of Marquise Hollywood Brown, right? Like, and what's been the bugaboo about Hollywood, just can never stay healthy because he's just so small. Restrepo is a different one, man. Like that is, and I know Q did not test well, but he's also 5'10" and 210. So like he's built more like a slot kind of big running back type rather than a wide receiver type, right? So he'll be an interesting one to watch because I don't know where you take that. Like for all the positives that 40 is like, that's, you have to dig into that and see if you can find something on tape that makes you go, I'm not worried about the consistency. I've seen people say like he could be the next Sterling Shepard. Where did Sterling
but is that something like with that speed? Is that worth a day 2 pick?
No,
like he better scout him as being elite in other ways to use that day 2 lottery ticket on a guy that is an outlier. And on day 2, day 3, should you be drafting outliers? And maybe it is more, but you draft outliers in day 3, right? Day 2, you want to kind of stay true to traits that you believe in.
Correct. The one guy that's been coming the opposite directions and is really intriguing to me is Kyle Williams. He's been around the block. I can't remember. I know he finished up at Washington State. I can't remember where he started, but he's a guy. UNLV, that's right. He's a guy that got better every year. So one of those things that we talk about, right? Like, how do these guys progress? So Williams at the combine came in at 5'11", 190, ran a 4.4 flat, had good enough jumps, better than average. And then you look at everything else. So, production wise, 5-year player. So he's going to be on the older side, probably closer to 24. But he was good at UNLV. 426 yards as a freshman, 600 yards as a sophomore, 541 yards in only 9 games as a junior. And then he transferred out, went to Wazoo, put up 843 yards and 6 touchdowns with the expected number 1 pick Cam Ward. And then in his final season kind of broke out. 70 receptions, just under 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, Jess. And he was a big play waiting to happen in his final season. And that's kind of where you look at him at, right? Is like, and now you're seeing him projected in round 2 by all the big guys. He's a vertical threat. But what we talked about with Noel, that's what are looking at kind of the opposite, right? He's a guy that he gets the ball and he makes plays with the ball in his hands. And so you want to scheme him open, but you'd like to see a little bit more concentration on those deep throws, a little bit better work tracking the ball and consistently catching the ball on those deep balls. So that's the question with him. But I mean, you look at what he did last year, man. And I'm always big on like looking at who it was against, right? So 142 yards against Boise State, 181 yards against a good New Mexico team last year. And then in the bowl game, his last game, he had 10 catches, 172 yards and a touchdown against Syracuse. So like he put up good numbers against good teams. And that's kind of all you ask for, right? When these guys are coming from small schools, you go back to the year before, he put up 102 yards against Oregon. ASU wasn't good the year before, so we won't talk about that one. But and then against Washington, who made the national championship that year, he had 5 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. So like, this is a dude that has consistently put up big numbers and played well at 2 different stops and got better. So that's the question. But is he a guy that you take at 47, or is he the guy you take at 86 or whatever the next pick is that they have? 78. Sorry, if he's there, right? Like, so if you get him at 78, you feel really good. I don't think you feel as good if you have to take him at 47.
So I'm going to get so we don't have to talk about them. I'll just throw a few names. If you say they're day 2 or day 3, if there's day 2, where is it? Is it round 2, round 3? Let's start with Utah State, Jalen Royals. Is he day 2 or day 3?
I think he's a 3rd rounder. He's going to go in that group with kind of some of the guys we just talked about. The thing with Royals is, he 6 foot 205 and then ran that 4.42 240. So good size, good speed. And then, put up a bunch of yards this year.
Isaiah Bond, we talked a little bit about him. He's more round 3 probably, isn't he?
Yeah. And he's going to be an interesting one to see, because he's not obviously as extreme, but similar to Xavier Restrepo of like, how are you grading him? I mean, he ran a 4.39, so he's fast. Don't get me wrong, but
he wasn't as fast as he said he was going to be. And honestly, he was the highly touted one coming to Texas. He was the one that they're like, yeah, Isaiah Bond, and he underwhelmed comparatively. And when it was Matthew Golden that was the receiving star,
and the one that he conjures up to me is John Brown. And that's not a negative. And John went in the 3rd round, I believe, right?
Yeah, he did. Savion Williams, TCU. He's an interesting one because an offensive coordinator is going to have to know how to use him, because he's a playmaker, but probably not polished enough as early in his career to just line up at X and try to run those number 1 receiver routes.
Well, and dude, I mean, literally a shade under 6'4", so he's huge. 222 pounds, and he ran a 4.48, and you're like, why did this guy not do more in college, right? Like, why was he not better? But we've seen those guys come out consistently over the last couple of years.
They're gadget players that aren't 5'8". They're 6'4". They're 6'4" gadget players,
right? And so that's the biggest thing with Savion, is how do you use him? I mean, all that stuff we just talked about, Jess, 114 deep yards. Like, you're 6'5", 222 pounds and run a sub 4.5, and you can't get the ball deep. Like, that's not a positive in any way, shape, or form.
Not Elijah Badger, day 2 or day 3?
I think Badge ends up going on day 3.
Okay, so let's push him to that. Any other day 2 guys that we should know before we punch on to day 3?
No, I mean, maybe Torrey Horton. I've seen him flirt with, those comp picks. But yeah, I mean, I think, we didn't mention Trey Harris. That's the one. Sorry. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. He's the other guy that's getting all the kind of buzz right now. Just under 6'3", 205, but only ran a 4.54. So it'll be interesting to see where he fits into this class and where he ends up, because it seems like, and we don't mean this in a negative way, but we talk about this every year. Like, these guys are kind of Jags, right? Like, but you look at what he did, same type of route as Kyle Williams, was at Louisiana Tech, put up good numbers for 2 years there, 935 yards and 10 touchdowns this last year. Then went to Ole Miss and put up 985 and 8, and then over 1,007. So took the step up in competition, did even better. Talented player on a good team. We'll see where he fits in this draft.
Coming next on the Rise Up Series podcast, Best of Cardinals talk on the web. Let's move on to day 3. Who are some day 3 guys worth knowing? That's coming next on Rise Up Red.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo! Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, Best of Cardinals talk on the web. The Cardinals they took a day 3 receiver last year in Tajon Palmer, athlete. He was one of the freaks for Bruce Feldman. Day 3 guys to know. You mentioned,
Torrey Horton. I think is the first guy, right? Colorado State. Everybody remembers his game against Colorado and that very memorable, the first time they played, in Deion's first year there, had a terrible year, injured, only 6 games, 353 yards, 1 touchdown. But think about this, Jess. The 2 years previous at Colorado State, 1,131 yards and 8 touchdowns, and then led, I believe, the NCAA in receptions, 96 receptions for 1,136 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. Everybody thought he was going to go, and he came back, and it just didn't work out. But he tested well. I mean, 6'2.5", 196, ran a 4.4, 140. He's a guy that should be able to come in and potentially, not just make a roster, but probably contribute. I've seen Tyler Johnson, I've seen Josh Reynolds comps, guys that got drafted on day 3 and had carved out niches as like wide receiver 4s and had good careers.
Felton out of Maryland, productive and fast. He seems intriguing. He's a touch on the lean side. It appears like he was listed at 178.
He came in at 183 at the combine. But here's the thing. So this is what we always talk about with those combine inflations, right? Coming at 183 and you don't test, and then everybody has questions. But he came in and he tested and he blew it out of the water. I mean, a 4.37 40, jumped out of the building, 39.5-inch vert, 130-inch broad, so 90th percentile for both of those. And like you said, Jess, he was ultra productive, kind of the alpha for that Maryland team. The last
better every year too.
Yeah, the last 2 years, and then this year capped it off. The question you have always with guys like this is, who'd you do it against? And I will say this, and this is the one kind of pause that this gives you. You look at his first 4 games this year, Jess, and you genuinely thought this was going to be a legendary season. 7 for 178 and 2, 11 for 152 and 1, 9 for 117 and 1, and then 14 for 157 and 1. That's over 600 yards in his first 4 games. He had a good rest of the season, but
one 100-yard game after that, the rest of the season was against Minnesota once they got to conference play. He did have 5 for 140 in 2023 against Rutgers. Shout out to Max Melton there. And 7 for 134 against Indiana in 2023. But yeah, like his production came against the non-conference guys, except for Michigan State. That was a conference game early, but three of his massive games were against non-conference.
Yeah, and not just that, but Connecticut was bad. Virginia was really bad, and then Villanova was bad. So it's like bad non-conference games. But again, came in size, speed, and has shown flashes of being a talent, a guy that's really intriguing from a size, speed perspective, and it goes back to questions that we end up having about these guys. Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. I get those confused all the time. Just under 6'4", 214, ran a 4.43, great jumps, good 20-yard short shuttle, so showed good change of directions, right? So, but again, you come back, and I know that Arkansas had a down year in terms of they expected more from their quarterback play. But I mean, in his career, Jess, 896 yards and 5 touchdowns. So that's the question, is like, you're taking, as you always say, on day 3, you're taking a guy that's kind of a size speed freak, right? 6'4", 214, 4.43, white boy. But you look at these games, Jess, I mean, against Texas A&M, one of the best teams they played, 5 for 120 and a touchdown. But then he goes up against, other teams, and he goes, against Texas, 1 for 7. Like that. And again, I'm not putting it all on Tesla, but if you're that much of a size speed freak, why can your quarterbacks not get you the ball more consistently? Like, why are you not able to get open more consistently? The last guy I'll mention, and that's the thing, when you're, talking about wide receivers, there's going to be 40 drafted, right? But the guy that led the NCAA this year, I think in yards, Nick Nash, 104 receptions. Jeez, right? 1,382 yards and 16 touchdowns, was an All-American. But he's he's old. He's a 6th-year senior. And he had a good second senior year, or I guess, yeah, this was his 3rd senior year. So his 2nd senior year, he had a good season, 48 for 728 and 8. But yeah, again, this one big year of production, you always have a red flag on that, but he's an intriguing day 3 type of guy.
And that adds in a little bit of wild card. Former quarterback, played a little quarterback in college, so you can do some trickery with him. Chimera DK out of Florida, 6 foot 4.34 speed, draftable, or is that speed going to get him drafted?
Yeah, it should. I mean, he's a guy that these guys you have to separate from some really bad quarterback play over their career. But again, with DK, like you mentioned, you look at it, he was at Wisconsin and started to build up. It got to 689 yards and 6 touchdowns, then got Wisconsin last year. I can't remember who the quarterback was, but I do remember he was awful. Tanner Mordecai, yeah. So and then went to Florida and the young kid Lagway, he's going to be good, but he was a true freshman, man. Graham Mertz was terrible. So putting up 783 yards was good. the last 2 years is what's been intriguing because you started to see the speed a little more. 17.3 yards per reception, then 18.6. So he was more of a big play merchant than anything else. You got to really go back to that 2022 season. I believe that's with Mertz as the quarterback there. Yeah. For Wisconsin, and kind of go back and judge him based on that, and then kind of combine it a little bit with this season. I know this was his most productive season, but again, when you're a fifth-year senior playing with a 18-year-old freshman, it's a very difficult situation most of the time for those guys.
Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech, not massively productive as a receiver. Very good testing, but also an elite punt returner. He led the ACC in punt return yards, had a touchdown, and did it also as his redshirt freshman year when he was at Middle Tennessee State. Probably, especially with the return ability, almost 5'10", 191, 4.34 speed. Super jumps, so he's going to be a guy that could be intriguing late in the draft for his return ability, for his upside as a playmaker. I kind of like the same thing as they got out of Tajon Palmer. Round 5, would that be about Fraser, or could he go all the way up into round 4?
It just depends on if a team thinks highly enough of his wide receiver skills. I've seen him peak in like the 130s, so I think that's round 4.
That is round 4. That's
yeah.
the dance for round 4. But like if you think about JJ Nelson, who was a 5th round pick, also fast, lean, but was an elite returner. You go with that. Jalen Lane's built a little bit bigger, almost 5'10", 190, so he's got that for that stronger build. Same type of speed, but also that you could, if the Cardinals haven't picked a receiver and he's available in round 5, wouldn't be surprised to go that route. Anybody else that we haven't mentioned that we should for day 3?
No, I mean, I think this is an interesting class, but it's very middle heavy, and that's why we spent so much time on the day 2 guys.
No, I mean, one guy to throw Jimmy Horn of Colorado. Would be another one to consider late in the draft. One of those, he wasn't Travis Hunter, and he's little. He is little as he comes in at 5'9" and almost 5'10" and 163. But he also does give you some kick return ability as well. Didn't do it a bunch, but does have that ability as well. He was at South Florida for a couple of years, then at Colorado the last 2. And with that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Secret podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web, episode 653. Next up on our list as we continue on this week will be defensive backs. I was looking at the schedule, and I happened to, Seth, that I did not put the defensive backs. We'll need to shuffle the schedule a little bit. We'll talk both corner and safety, heavier on corner, lean on safety. Then probably, because we're going to do one on linebackers and tight ends and one on our quarterbacks, we might just throw one more. We'll do the corners and safeties, and I think we'll do it this way. Thursday we'll do linebackers and DBs, and then do QBs, running backs, and tight ends as our last positional preview. Then we'll talk about it late next week. If we're gonna 7-round mock the Cardinals, what are we looking at that we think is good before we come to our actual mock draft? So with that, we will wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Secret podcast. It's our Cardinals talk the web, and as always, that's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening. As always, we will be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The Red Podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise up, See Red.
Rise up! Rise up! Rise up!
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.